Wondrous King, all glorious, sovereign Lord victorious, oh, receive our praise with favor.
There is something special about singing together at the table, whether before or after dinner. In our Ritchie home, we usually sing before we eat, which makes it like a double dose of community, where you have praying and singing and then sharing a meal together. The question is, why does this simple habit resonate so deeply, even with strangers online? Well, stick around. That's coming up on today's episode. I'm Jared Ritchie. Today is Friday, September the 26th, and you're listening to the Friday 5 series from Musically Speaking. Today we're looking at a hymn by Joachim Neander. Yes, the same Neander who wrote Praise to the Lord the Almighty. Incidentally enough, those of you who study Neanderthal, it was the Neander Valley there, but that's not why we want him to remain famous. But his Praise to the Lord the Almighty is most well known. But this hymn today, his Wondrous King, all glorious, is full of vibrant, God-centered praise, you could say. And I thought we'd take a closer look at why this hymn is such a treasure and how singing it together builds community, and why bringing hymns like this into yours and my home can reshape the way we experience the daily liturgies in our homes and in our families. So point number one, a hymn of praise. The first stanza begins with, Wondrous King, all glorious, sovereign Lord victorious, oh, receive our praise with favor. You heard that, the Ritchie singing in unison at the episode lead-in. And that's the kind of line that calls us to start singing. And starting a meal this way feels fitting, at least it does for us in the Ritchie home. We're asking God to receive not just our song, of course, but our table fellowship as an offering, as a way to knit each other together in the bonds of peace. So that's point number one. It's a hymn of praise. Point number two is singing as community.
Hallelujah, sing ye redeemed, oh, bring ye hearts that yield him glad behavior.
This is an excerpt that I posted earlier this month online as a reel, just a 20-second or so clip of this audio of my family around the dinner table singing this last stanza. By Jared Ritchie standards, it went viral. As the last count, over 320,000 views. And I can only think it's because singing together like this is deeply human. You know, eating together is communal. Singing together is also communal. And doing both at the same time, it just seems to double the joy, and I think it excites those who may not have access to that. And that's point number two, the community or the communal aspect of singing. Point number three is bringing the hymns home. Most of us think of hymns as quote-unquote Sunday morning music or worship music. But what if you brought them back into everyday life? When we sing before dinner, we're training our children and ourselves to make singing a normal response to God's goodness throughout the week. Hymns and psalms become part of the soundtrack of home life. And I think that's something that we all could use to have a good bit more of in our life. So take a moment this week to sing before or after dinner. Even if it's just the doxology, you may find that your heart is encouraged and your home is a little more joyful for it. I'll put a link to the show notes if you want to help this reel of Wondrous King go even more viral. Be all the more appreciative. Well, that's going to have to do it for this episode of the Friday 5 this week. I'll, of course, as I said, put a link in the show notes for you to check that reel out for yourself if you're interested, and maybe even sing along. Well, thanks so much for listening. As always, until next time, take care.